Everyone. Before we start tonight's meeting, I just want to thank Dr. Dvorak at Easton Elementary School for giving the council, some of the council members tonight, a fabulous tour before tonight's meeting. So let's rise for opening remark for Mr. Silverstein.
Dear Lord, we are thankful for this day that you've given us, for its blessings, its opportunities, its challenges. May we appreciate and use each day that comes to us. We pray for strength and guidance for each day as it comes, and for each day's duties, for each day's problems. May we be challenged to give our best always, and may we be assured of your presence with us. Amen. I pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone had a nice and safe and happy holiday Thanksgiving season. First, we have the minutes from our November 2nd meeting and our workshop.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Good evening, Mayor Willie.
I really have nothing to offer tonight other than to wish everybody the greatest of holiday seasons and a nice round big old Christmas turkey, whatever else floats your boat during Christmas. But we've had a good year. I thank you all for the time you've spent and the effort you've made towards a successful year. I think we've had that. That's not to let anybody think we're going to take it easy next year, because it's going to get worse. And look forward to having everybody next year and a real long year that we can get things done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Does anyone have any questions for Mayor Willie? All right. Mr. Richardson.
Good evening, President Cook, Council. There's one item out on your agenda this evening for your consideration. The Public Works Department went to Sourcewell, which is a nationally recognized contract procurement source for truck bids for an automated collection truck. This isn't anticipated to be received by the town of Easton until the fall of 2021. So this is a purchase that's actually going to be in your next fiscal year's budget. It was earmarked or allocated this year as something that we could go ahead and procure. So they received two bids back, one from Mid-Atlantic Waste Systems in the amount of $286,270, and one from Maryland Industrial Trucks in the amount of $279,279.11. They've compared the specifications and the scope and believe that it is in the best interest of the town of Easton to award it to the low bidder, Maryland Industrial Trucks, at $279,279.11.
Does anyone have any questions about the purchase of the truck?
Had an opportunity to look at the bids, and I appreciate staff sending that out to us to make sure we were looking apples to apples. And it seems like the low bidder meets all the qualifications, so I'd make a motion for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you. And then I just have one additional announcement. In the past 2 weeks, we've actually onboarded 3 new employees. The first is Zachary Christ, who has joined our public works staff as a maintenance mechanic. That fills our public works facility. We have no vacancies at this point in time. And we also added Shelby Ruff as our administrator and Dave Kennedy as a building inspector in our building inspection department. That also brings that department to fully staffed. So we look forward to the successes of all 3 of those new employees and the services to be able to be continued for each of those departments.
Please pass on a heartfelt welcome
I will.
to all 3.
I will. Thank you very much.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Richardson? All right, thank you. Ms. Van Emberg?
I do not have anything this evening.
All right, any questions for? All right, thank you. Moving right along. All right, next we have resolution number 6127, a resolution of the Town of Easton adopting the 2017 Talbot County Hazard Mitigation and Community Resilience Plan.
So to add a little bit of background information to this, the town of Easton currently has adopted a former hazard mitigation plan. The community resilience aspect of it, this was added into this 2017 plan. And Talbot Center and the emergency management staff down at the EOC developed this back in 2017 with the cooperation of all the municipalities to make sure that our locations and our local municipal information was up to date in this mitigation and resilience plan. In order for us to be able to continue to pursue federal grant sources, the latest and greatest version of this plan needs to be adopted, and this is the steps to make sure that that happens.
Now, is this because, in case of hurricanes?
Hurricane, tornadoes, earthquakes, in the rare instance that we have another one of those, floods, yes.
If we had an accident where a vehicle had hazardous material on it, would that be covered also?
It's also covered under the plan.
I'd make a motion for approval of resolution number 6127.
I second it.
All right. That resolution has been moved and seconded, Mrs. Ruff.
Mr. Silverstein?
Aye.
Mr. Abbatiello?
Yes.
Mr. Engle?
Yes.
Reverend Davis?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes. All right. Next, we have resolution number 6128, a resolution of the town amending the Town of Easton Employee Handbook related to compensated absences, specifically overtime as compensatory time and vacation.
So this resolution is a result of a workshop that we had at after your last council meeting. And some of the information that I presented to you during that workshop is up on the screen again this evening. It's been updated to today. So you can see that the current liability for compensated absences for the town of Easton is $887,981. Our financial advisors and our auditors have been encouraging the town of Easton to create new policies and new provisions to mitigate and get this liability under control. And likewise, the mayor had previously requested that we start to mirror the employee handbook of Easton Utilities Commission. And in their handbook, the accrual limits were much different than ours. The initial proposal to you at your workshop was to eventually get to the point with a 3-year phase-in plan for both the compensatory time and the vacation time. Compensatory getting down to 24 hours and vacation time getting to 50% of the allocated benefit or earned benefit in each fiscal year. We've made some minor adjustments to that given some feedback that we've received over the course of the past 2 weeks. But on this slide, you can see that we've made some improvements. There was 26 employees that were between 73 and 100 hours. We now only have 20, and that trend continues. Although some of those that were up there have dropped down into the lower categories, our staff have been diligent about responding to this request and getting their accumulated hours lowered. That is also true, but to some lesser degree in the vacation spectrum. It is the holiday seasons, and we'll see some of our employees begin to use some of their holiday time. This screen shows in overview what's in the resolution, but it shows the adjustment that was made, where for compensatory time initially it needed to be used within a 30-day period. We've modified that to 180 days, and we've taken what was 24 hours and we've increased that to 40. It currently is at 100 hours, and then we phase that in over a 2-year period, allowing our employees to get used to the new accrual limitations. While doing this, the resolution reformats and reorganizes parts of the handbook so that it is a more user-friendly document. And the one change that was added that actually increases the benefit to our employees is a change in the vacation accrual schedule. That accrual schedule right now you can see is in the top part of this slide, and the proposed accrual schedule is in the bottom part. We're essentially recommending that rather than the initial 1 week of paid time earned, that we increase that to 2 full weeks after the initial trial service. And then we've also proposed in this to change the rate at which you earn that. So instead of it being year 2, 7, 15, and 25, making that year 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25. So there's a more regular earning of that time, and you get it quicker than you would have normally. And then again, phasing that vacation accrual limit in, that currently it's written as 50% of what you're allowed to earn annually. So for example, a new employee that is allowed to earn 80 hours would be allowed to carry over 40 hours into the next year, but we're gonna phase that in over a 3-year period, because right now today you're allowed to carry 240 hours in most instances. But we would make that 200 at July of 21, 150 at July of 22, and then the 50% at July of 2023. So that is a quick summary of this. The real need and the urgency from this, again, is from our financial advisors and our actuaries. And it's also looking at the forecasts of the future fiscal year's budgets and trying to be responsible about those liabilities so that they don't impact our ability to fund the future fiscal year budgets. I'm sure there are questions.
There have been a lot of questions, a lot of conversation about this over the last week, 10 days. I would ask that you don't vote on this tonight, that we hold it at least till the next meeting, get some more questions answered. I agree with Don. This liability issue has gotten really out of whack. It's starting to show up very dramatically in the budget process and the numbers that we have. But what I would ask, there's been a couple of proposals put forth. One is 50 hours with a 1-year phase-in. The second was to separate personal days out with a maximum of 5 that you could roll over. And the one that I'm not sure I agree with, but at least it needs to be discussed further, is front-end loading of vacation time. Between now and the next meeting, I would hope anybody that has a question, that we try to get together and get these things answered and get this on the books, because we should go into the new year with this taken care of.
So
I'll add 2 more clarifications to that. I did funnel this to all of our department heads, and I've received response, at least from the chief of police. There are 2 provisions in there which he had some minor comments to. One was the wording for time in lieu of holiday. We did make some minor adjustments to that, but there was a relationship, I gotta get to the right part, excuse me. A relationship to transitional duty assignments and unpaid leaves of absences. The intention was not to have that accrual stop during certain unpaid leaves of absences, specifically military time, pregnancy-related, bereavement, voting, and witnesses. So we will be striking that from this document.
So my question is, Mayor, concern about the unfunded amount. the impact on that could impact our bond rating in the future. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
I would say that there is a possibility, yes. It's a rather sizable number for a town with a $22, $23 million budget. It's about 5% of the budget, so it is a significant number.
Thank you.
Mayor Willie, I appreciate the comments that you added about the increasing the amount of comp time that can be rolled over and used, and I thank you for those. Those stemmed from a number of conversations that I know some of the other councilmen have reached out to staff, and we've heard from people. And it seems like the comp time is the issue that seems to have the most comments that we've received from staff. As the mayor said, this is just, tonight is the first reading. We're gonna comment tonight and vote on it. And I would encourage staff to reach out to councilmen in the next week or so to have any questions answered if they want anything prepared for the next meeting. But I do like those changes of the, and I understand, and I've been able to listen to a number of the employees. I understand the concerns from the town side and getting the liability down. But let's, I think there's some wiggle room between what's being proposed and the need to reduce that liability. So thank you, Mayor Willie, for those comments.
Well, the last comment on the budget, because you're gonna see it quick enough, but in all fairness to Don and him, he's trying to get these numbers to coincide a lot closer. But we generally have increases in the assessable base of our property tax of 3 to 5%. That used to cover any benefit increases and what have you, and leave a little bit of money left over. The last year or two, that has not been the case, where the assessable base has not increased fast enough to cover benefit increases. So whatever we do with benefits, it doesn't seem like a big number to start with, but it all adds up. So we need to be real sure, real careful before we take this on.
Does anyone have any questions or comments for Don or the mayor on this? If not, I guess we'll have public hearing we'll vote on it at our next meeting. Public comment is welcome. All right. With that, my computer turned off. All righty. Next on the agenda is a letter from the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding the Zoning Ordinance and Text Amendment.
Mrs. Cook, this recommendation comes to you from the Planning and Zoning Commission. They need a public hearing scheduled on or after January 4th to conclude this recommendation.
Okay. Why don't we set it for, either January 4th or the following? I
The
don't know.
following meeting is on the 18th. So it could be on January 4th and/or January 18th.
Okay. How does January 4th look, or would it be best to push it to the 18th?
Mrs. Ruff?
I'm sorry.
Is the 4th
Fourth
okay?
is fine.
Okay. All right, we'll set it for January 4th.
Perfect.
I have a question. Will we have staff from planning and zoning here to explain this? Because I quite candidly have not swallowed the Kool-Aid on this one. I don't agree with it.
Okay.
So I would like to have them here so we can get a straight answer.
We will have staff present on January 4th. Bless you.
Excuse me.
All right, any other questions regarding that? All right. Next, we have a letter regarding the Planning Commission's review of the proposal to locate a dog park on the town-owned property known as Brewer's Lane. Who wants to take this one? Go ahead.
In summary, you've seen this previously. The park board initially recommended proceeding forward with the concept of a dog park at Brewer's Lane. That came before you as a recommendation. It was required by code for you then to send it to Planning Commission for their approval. My understanding is the recommendation from the Planning Commission is in favor of proceeding forward with the concept of a dog park, and is now back before you for approvals.
Correct. Does anyone have any questions? We do have Mr. Brophy from the Park Board is here. If anyone
Well,
had any questions?
I know the planning commission did a 3-2 vote,
It was a 3-2 vote.
and I'm curious what the objection of the two individuals were.
It's a very good question. I was present at that meeting, and the conversation did get off topic a little bit about different things. I think it was the location of Brewer's Lane, whether that was the ideal location, but I think they were looking at whether it was compatible with the comp plan or not, and it did go 3-2. But the conversation did ebb and flow on a number of things.
I've got, it doesn't relate to our approval, but I think something would be usable, David, if you're awake over there. I think we need a better description of what's gonna happen. People are asking me, like, what happens to all the animal waste, what happens to the dog urine, all this kind of stuff. These are things that we have to, people are asking us already, and I do not have an answer to it. I'm certainly not opposed in any way to the dog park, but I think at this point, now we've done this, you guys need to give us a graphic description of what's gonna happen, the materials used, how we replace this stuff, who's gonna police the stuff, so we have the answer. Other than that, we sort of feel left out in the open.
I know that information has been given to the Park Board. I know, Dave, do you want to answer those questions?
Yeah, can I come up here?
Yes, please.
So to reintroduce myself, my name's David Ferraris. I live on South Aurora Street, downtown. Myself and a colleague, Noah Matten, who I think is arriving late because of work, had sort of spearheaded this sometime last year. We started off with the Talbot County Parks and Rec Board, who then moved us to the Easton Parks and Rec Board, and then we moved to you, and then we moved to the Planning Commission, and now we're back here. So this has been a somewhat lengthy process, but totally understandable, as I know it's a big decision and it is town-owned land. As far as the exact specifications of the dog park that you're talking about, Ron, I can't give you those now.
Well, I'm not looking for them now. It's sometime in the near future.
Oh,
Give us
absolutely.
something that describes it, so when
Absolutely.
I get
We've-
grabbed the side of the street, as I have been a number of times.
Yeah, we've gone as far as choosing some materials that we would like to use, and that was done primarily in order to come up with some rudimentary budget. But as far as, you know, how waste and all that, of course, but first, our main goal was to get this approved by the town council. And then we were gonna, once we had our location established, we could take those dimensions, and then we could go ahead and move forward with the specifications of the park.
Yeah, I want to congratulate you guys finally grabbing this thing and doing something with it. I've been hearing it for 6 years when we go to the dog park, so the only problem I got was when you tried to put 3 of us on the committee there. That's
Right.
sort of illegal.
No, I appreciate you saying that. It's so I've spoken to a handful of people that I guess were on the Friends of the Easton Dog Park, which was the primary or previous effort. Very nice people. I've heard varying stories of, you know, they were offered land at RTC Park. They turned it down because there was no parking nearby. I heard stories of money that was fundraised and not returned to people. I have no idea, but Noah and I have tried to make it clear from the beginning that we are a separate effort. We were starting from scratch. I think they probably ended up clearing some barriers for us, and the fact that you have all heard about this for years now. But I just got off the phone with someone from the Star Democrat before I walked in here, and he's like, "How long has this been going on? Like 10 years?" I said, "No. I just started on this like last year. I wasn't a part of that." But yes, Noah has experience fundraising and planning a dog park when he lived in Baltimore for Pattison Park. That was probably 2 or 3 times the size of what we're looking to do here. That was like a $400,000 dog park that he helped accomplish, mostly through grants. We're looking at something that would probably cost in the neighborhood of $150,000. if you're not aware of part of the process of how we got here, we gave it to the Parks and Rec Board. We located 3 different locations that we thought would be good spots. One of them RTC Park, one of them Brewer's Lane, and another one down near the police station. And the Parks and Board Rec voted unanimously for Brewer's Alley. To be honest, in the very beginning, it wasn't my first choice. I couldn't see the vision of taking this gravel parking lot that I just always sort of pass and there's nothing ever there, and turning that into a dog park. But in reality, it really has turned out to be the most sensible location. The parking situation with RTC Park, that's still going to come up. Anyone that doesn't want to walk that far to take their dog there, it's just not that accessible. Nor are there any utilities right there. So the cost would automatically be skyrocketed to get water and potentially lighting to the dog park. So the Brewer's Alley location really, and I've heard different people say this on the Planning Commission and on the Parks and Rec Board and in the Town Council, where everyone wants to foster projects that help create a more walkable, livable, and vibrant downtown Easton. And we feel strongly, and we've had literally hundreds of people voice the same thing to us, that this would achieve that. Being able to go downtown, right across from the farmer's market, where there's nothing going on. I've lived here 12 years. There's just always been those empty parking lots. I've never seen anything there except snow and maybe people getting ready for a parade. But I'm assuming it's been maybe decades where there's been nothing there. And it's just a prime spot to do this. It's surrounded by parking, so parking's not an issue. It's already got utilities. And we think that if creating this public space, this park, this open space, people can come and maybe they'll visit local businesses right around there. Maybe they'll walk over to Piazza with their dog. Maybe they'll go to JoJo's. Maybe they'll go from the farmer's market to the dog park and back to the farmer's market. It fosters all the things that we talk about in terms of creating a strong town. I could go on and on. I've got a list of bullet points as to why a dog park is beneficial to a community, but I don't know if you necessarily want to hear all that. I'll stop there, though.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments regarding the dog park from anyone? If not, gentlemen, any questions? Does anyone want to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, congratulations.
I want to say this now, between now and next week, I don't intend to sign this ordinance until some questions are answered. They don't necessarily have to be in public, and you come in office someday when you get a chance to answer them. But to me, there's some things that have never been talked about that we need to talk about before this goes into effect. So I will return it to you unsigned next meeting unless we get those answers.
Sounds great. Is there anyone else that wants to bring anything to the council's attention tonight?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. I hope everyone had a good holiday. At the risk of forgetting what the devastating impact of the COVID is having on the businesses downtown, I find it necessary to bring up a new topic, or actually an ongoing topic, and which is the inner courtyard project, which I think is, to be kind, a money pit boondoggle, to be kind. One of the things I've not heard yet about it is what is the objective of this. If it's just to provide another green space downtown, well, Thompson Park and the courthouse in front of the park in front of the courthouse are underutilized now, and they're both very pleasant spaces. If it's intended to bring people downtown to shop, herding them into a kind of a ghetto away from the shops doesn't seem to be the proper way to go. These kinds of pedestrian walkways, if you want to call it, or pedestrian areas, work when they are immediately immediately adjacent to or contiguous to the shops. Putting everybody in that inner courtyard does not solve the problem of getting them into the shops or the restaurants. That puts them, actually it hides them away from those shops. And then, not to mention the security and safety issues of having a hidden area where you've got a security problem inherent. I'm not sure if the police would be on board with having to patrol that area all the time because it is basically a hidden area. And there are some issues, some very serious issues, which I think negate the whole process, and I'll bring those up now. I'm not sure if any of you have walked back there. It's certainly not pretty. I'll show you just a couple pictures I'll object to. What you might call the underbelly of a commercial area is never very pretty, but there are some serious things which I don't think have been addressed to, and before we spend money on studies or whatever on how this will work, there's some things that have to be considered. One, parking. You'll be losing at minimum 30 spaces that the tenants and employees use back there, and those are 30 spaces which are not going to be replaced in the immediate downtown area. Two, the dumpsters. We as business people are required to keep a 4 cubic foot dumpster for our trash, whether we use it or not, but they are back there and they are overfilled on the most part because we have, and which is why there's dumpster pickup every day downtown, except for the weekend, unlike the residential areas. Once the biggest question is, where do we put those dumpsters? And how do they get to them? Deliveries. When I was down there taking these pictures, there were 2 trucks, fairly big trucks, waiting to get into an area where they could deliver. If you've ever driven downtown when the Cisco trucks or any of the other trucks are trying to unload, they create a huge traffic jam downtown just when they're delivering to the spaces right there. There is something else which is really important. If you notice on those pictures, there are some about 3 cubic yard metal containers that have VP on them. Those are filled with recyclable grease, which come from restaurants. And there are 4 or 5 restaurants right there which dump grease into them. They have to be pumped out about every 3 or 4 weeks. There's nothing pretty about it. There's nothing nice about it. They stink. They are dirty. They attract vermin, but they have to be there because Easton Utilities requires us, rightly so, to recycle that oil. Where are those going to go, and how are they going to be used by the restaurants? If you also notice, there are quite a number of HVAC systems, makeup air systems, exhaust systems, all back there, which somehow are going to have to be relocated. And who's going to pay for that relocation? I understand that that it would be nice to have a courtyard back there, but these are things which, in my opinion, pretty much keep it from happening. There's a broader issue here, and again, if you're trying to help if you're trying to help the businesses downtown during this time, then I think you should consider what it is they need. Specifically, right now, the retail need the ability to compete with online ordering. Brick and mortar is taking a hit. Restaurants need to be able to attract customers in even though they don't want to go out. What we need is access to capital that gives us a competitive edge against the online ordering, et cetera. And instead of the thousands and thousands of dollars, let's not kid ourselves, it's going to cost many thousands of dollars to turn this into an inner courtyard, basically a white elephant. Why not spend that money on what the brick and mortars really need? If you want to help us, how about tax abatements? How about tax incentives? How about low-cost loans or even grants, which give us the capital that make us competitive with the rest of, in this time? Right now, I hate to sound like a broken record, but downtown is hurting. And if not for the grants that are coming through from the state and hopefully from the Senate, if they ever get around to passing another stimulus package, there are going to be some serious issues downtown. And that's what I have to say about the inner courtyard. There is one other thing I'd like to bring up as kind of a self-appointed advocate for downtown, and that is along the same lines of wanting people to shop downtown on the weekends. What we need is some parking, and I will bring a picture of, this is the farmer's market on Saturday. If you notice, there are no vendors, all the parking spaces are closed off, and I can attest that I saw people driving around wanting to go shopping and not being able to find any parking spaces, which I think this is ridiculous, that they should have these, and the parking spaces were still marked as no parking well into Saturday afternoon and early Sunday morning. So please, let's not forget what's going on downtown. It's hurting, could use a little bit of help. The inner courtyard is certainly not going to help it in any way. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to. Otherwise, I've said my piece.
Steve, could you say your name and your address for the record,
Steve
please?
Mangasarian, 520 South Aurora Street.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Mangasarian? Thank you very much.
Steve, you dropped something.
Anyone else have anything to bring before the council tonight? All right, if not, we have invoices totaling $1,451,771.82. Do we have a motion to pay the bills?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, items by the council, Mr. Silverstein?
Just wish everybody a happy holiday. Encourage them to get out and shop locally. Go out, and if you can't eat in a restaurant, you can still do takeout from restaurants. You have those options available to you. We need to support the people who supported us. Everybody who has children, whenever their organizations needed something or a donation, they came to the merchants, and it's time for us to step up and help them. So anything you can do to keep it local, we appreciate.
As a history teacher, I would be remiss if I didn't remind people that 79 years ago, Americans sat around their homes wondering what was next after the attacks on Pearl Harbor. As we remember that terrible day and the losses, I hope people also remember how Americans overcame the challenges of December 7th, 1941, and that consistently, when faced with difficult times, we've risen as a people to overcome them. So I think that's important to remember too.
He sort of stole some of my thunder. I agree with what he said. I think people ought to be thinking of the veterans that are diminishing numbers of World War II. And I speak as someone whose entire family was at Pearl Harbor during the attack. So I know well what it meant and what it meant for the years after that. And I think I was disappointed in most of the news services that saw virtually nothing on it. And I think that we need to remember things like that, because that's how we learn to react in the future.
Reverend David?
Well, first I want to thank Steve for his comments tonight. I really appreciate it, and he's done his due diligence to bring us some information. I want to thank him for that. And during these holidays, want everyone to be safe. I think being safe is very important. And remember that Christmas is one day. You know, sometimes we, you know, go haywire, but it's only one day, and I want you to remember that, especially from an economic point of view, but from where I come from. You know, this is the season of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and a time of giving and a time of being kind to one another. If ever we should be kind, now is the time. And consider others in, be careful how we say what we say, and consider others and their feelings even before ourselves. And I think that's important as we live in 2020 going into 2021.
Thank you very much. I need a motion to move into closed session under General Provisions Article 3-305B4 to consider a matter that concerns the proposal for a business or industrial organization to locate, expand, or remain in the state.
So moved.
Second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. Do we need a roll call, Mrs. Ruff?
No.
No? All right. All
Aye.
in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, moved into closed session. Thank you, everyone.